everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Amanda, and this is a vlog talking about my experience after getting an autism and ADHD diagnosis about 2.5 years ago. I also have total aphantasia and a memory disorder called severely deficient autobiographical memory, and I have videos on those subjects as well. Today, so first off, a little bit about my setup here. And for my blind viewers, I am currently sitting on a pull-out couch in my home office, which I'm calling my recovery nest. I had a hysterectomy 11 days ago, and things are going pretty well recovery-wise. It's slow, but that was expected. I felt a little bit better a couple days after my surgery, and then I feel like I've crashed since then. But then I realized I'm not on the heavy painkillers anymore. I'm just down to about one, regular over-the-counter med for pain a day now, which is really good. But it does explain why I was feeling really good for a while there. But I've got journals and my crochet, and I've been trying to take it really easy. I've got a really good support system. Trying to get up and move a little bit per doctor's orders, that kind of thing. But in today's video, I want to talk a little bit to my autistic community and some things that I see in online spaces that I think needs to be brought up so that people can kind of become a little bit more self-aware about it. Namely, in a lot of social media spaces, and this can be in real life too, but I just see it happen a lot on online spaces because a lot of autistic people are in online spaces and algorithms put us together. So if after you get diagnosed or you're starting to look into an autism diagnosis, and all of a sudden you start to feel like, oh my gosh, is everybody online actually autistic? That's the algorithms. Algorithms are really good at putting you with typed content. And so for the first time in your life, you're going to be in spaces with other autistic people. And in your offline life, you probably really didn't know that many autistic people, but further into your diagnosis, you might start gravitating towards other autistic people. And now that more and more people are getting diagnosed, I have met a couple other late diagnosed autistic people in the last year. So it may happen in offline spaces too, is all I'm trying to say. But so online spaces aren't really actually conducive to much discussion. A lot of times it's people spouting an opinion or, sharing a fact, and then there's lots of comments underneath. But rarely is there a discussion. Every once in a while, people will come back and forth and actually have a discussion. But most of the time, it's one person saying something and somebody else responding. Maybe the original person will come back and refute it again. That's not really a discussion. That's throwing your opinions on each other and then running. But what I've been seeing in online spaces is somebody will start a discussion, and then an autistic person will try to contribute to the conversation. And then they'll get dogpiled on because they're not contributing in a way that neurotypicals contribute. A lot of times, autistic people will share a relatable story. So the original post might be about a funny thing that someone saw at a convenience store, and the autistic person might share their relatable story. A neurotypical person in the comment section be like, oh my God, that's so hilarious. Or, oh my gosh, were you scared? Whatever the story was, right? They're going to respond to what happened in the story. The autistic person a lot of times will say, oh my gosh, that is like that time that I went to a convenience store and something similar happened, and then tell their story. And then neurotypical people will say, stop recentering the conversation. And this is not what's happening. Autistic people and ADHD people often share relatable stories as a way to connect, a way to vibe check, like, see, are we sharing a similar experience or not? Because if somebody shares a story about, oh my gosh, I witnessed someone having a heart attack in a movie theater, and an autistic person comes in and says, oh yeah, I once saw somebody stub their toe at the movies, then that's like, then the other person's like, this was way worse than that. That's kind of like the vibe check. That's like, oh, okay, yeah. And I use something very obvious and blatant, just to help point out the contrast. So that way the autistic person go, oh, okay, I misunderstood you, because my relatable story did not actually relate. So that means that I was off base. But when we share a relatable story and we're told that we're recentering the conversation, it's very frustrating, because it is one of our natural ways of communicating. And so we're being told that we're communicating wrong. And there's no wrong way to communicate. There's just different ways. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because lately I have seen autistic people coming into conversations and saying, I'm autistic and I disagree with you, or I'm autistic and this conversation is not about you. And that is harming the community. Do not come into a comment section where somebody who said they're autistic and is trying to contribute to a conversation and tell that autistic person they're communicating incorrectly. That harms our community. And I'm going to tell you why. So we know that autism is spectrum, right? It's not, mild to severe. That's not how autism works. That's a very old, outdated model. I'm going to put up my recent autism color wheel, because this thing is kind of one of the best ways to talk about it. That's where the spectrum is. So I just quickly took this test again today just to regenerate this wheel. Every time I take it, it's slightly different because it depends on how I'm feeling today when I answer the questions. But as you can see, my social bar is like kind of medium, which actually really does check, because I have a lot of social awareness, but I do not have as much social awareness as maybe some other autistic people, because it's a spectrum, and I definitely don't have as much social awareness as a neurotypical person. I'm very good at observing people and understanding how people think, and I've studied people a lot, but that doesn't intuitively mean that I intuitively understand how things work. And I often get myself into situations because I either don't mask, or I, reject the societal norm that is at play. And so I just, instead of addressing it and then talking about it, I just bulldoze over it, because it's in my head. I'm doing parts of the conversation that aren't happening out in real life, because I'll forget that is a thing that needs to happen because I'm autistic. And so, sometimes autistic people will have parts of the conversation in their own head, and that's where the communication differences come from. And it happens really fast. We're not necessarily even aware that we're doing it. But because we're a spectrum, when you're interacting with somebody else online who says they're autistic, their social skills might be less than yours. You might have more, or this might be a special interest area for you. And so you have more understanding about the way neurotypical people approach it. And so you mask better in that situation. So coming into a comment section and saying, I'm autistic, and you're doing this wrong is so harmful to the community, because autism as a minority group, we're already being attacked by neurotypical people. We do not need to be attacked by each other. Yes, it's okay to call out autistic people who are being actually harmful. Sharing a relatable story is not harmful. That is not recentering the conversation. It's adding depth. It's adding often nuance. It's adding context a lot of times. That's another thing that'll happen in conversations online because, and I have a video about bottom up versus top down thinking. Autistic people are bottom up thinkers. So what that means is that we like to look at all of the context of a subject and then we refine it. Neurotypical people, they start with a premise and then they'll add on to it. Or sometimes they'll start with a premise and it's like, this is what we're talking about, and we're not going to add any other context and we're not going to add any other nuance because we want to stick with this subject only. And for a lot of autistic people, that tunnel vision of just sticking to one subject before you at least acknowledge the other context areas can be very difficult. So a lot of times somebody will bring up a subject and an autistic person will pop into the comment section and say, oh, okay, I do agree with that, but what about this, this, and this? We're not saying that we didn't agree. We're saying that multiple things can be true at once, and these things are all happening at the same time. And people will come into the comment section and they'll say, we're not talking about these things. We're only talking about this. There's no one right way to have a conversation, okay? So just because an autistic person wants to add more context so that they can be part of the conversation, it's an online space, they are welcome to be part of the conversation in an open online forum. So shutting them down instead of including them where they are and how they interact with the world, it's just frustrating, it's harmful, and it adds to the stigma against autism about how we do things wrong. And when I see another autistic person pile onto this behavior, it makes me so mad because think about another time when that would happen to you, where you're trying to explain something and another autistic person would do that to you. It would make you so mad. Okay, so here is a good example. What does someone post? If someone crosses one of your boundaries, you need to just cut them off. Okay, and that's what they post. And as an autistic person, you know that things aren't always cut and dry because you see context and you see like, what about this and what about this situation, right? And so you think, well, what if someone doesn't realize they crossed a boundary? Sometimes boundaries aren't clearly stated. What if the person didn't realize? And then some people might reply back and say, why are you defending a toxic person that crossed a boundary? You need to cut them out. And you're not trying, as an autistic person, you're not trying to defend toxicity. You're trying to say, hey, people need to communicate better. You're just trying to add more to the discussion. And people will take your words and twist them and say, like, because you've said that, because you've added more to the discussion, you're defending toxic behavior. Another way this happens is somebody might say, because they're just posting, I guess, for, I don't know, engagement, which is what social media is about. But when autistic people engage, we often get told that we're doing it wrong. So someone might say, hey, what's your favorite show? And instead of just saying the name of the show, an autistic person might say, oh, my favorite show is this. And we might even go our episode, and these are our favorite characters, and this is the reason why we like it. And then somebody else might respond and say, oh my gosh, just list the show. Why are you writing an entire essay about this? Nobody asked for that. And we weren't trying to dominate the conversation. We just deep dive, because like if it's a topic that we love, we're just going to deep dive into it, right? So it's already frustrating enough when a neurotypical person does this. When an autistic person comes in and says, hey, I'm autistic too, you didn't need to give that much information. That is where I get so mad, because again, maybe how that other autistic person is communicating is completely valid, and you are actually showing ableism by perpetuating that the way the autistic person is communicating is incorrect. But you are also forgetting that autism is not a monolith, and we are a dynamic disability and a spectrum. And so where that autistic person is on that spectrum may not be the same as where you are. Some autistic people are still much more masked in certain spaces. And so they are responding in masked ways. They're normalizing neurotypical conversations. And then the thing that is the most frustrating is when I try to advocate and I say, hey, I'm autistic. Social differences is literally part of my disability. Then people still just don't understand that. But it's the same thing as if you were to tell a wheelchair person to just get up and walk. Like, just walk, just go up those stairs. I mean, I see you have a wheelchair, but you should be able to just go up those stairs. And people will look an autistic person dead in the eye while we're looking off because we don't do eye contact. Okay, I had to put a little silly joke in there. But they'll look at us straight in the face and be like, you need to socialize better. And it's like, no, that is literally part of my disability. And we don't socialize wrong. We just socialize different. And you need to learn more about how different people socialize, because we've spent a lot of time trying to learn how neurotypical people talk and socialize, and it's exhausting, and it's burning us out, and it is not healthy. And we need neurotypical people to start to understand that there are ways that other people communicate that are just as valid. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. I hope that I was clear enough. I feel like maybe I should have used an outline for this one so that it's on topic a little bit more, but I just freeformed it. And it's so funny because I was talking, like discussions, and oftentimes out of sight, out of mind. When I'm responding to YouTube comments, I try to read as many of them as I can. I can't always respond to all of them, but in order to see if somebody responded back to me, I have to go into a different part of the YouTube studio, and out of sight, out of mind, I literally will forget that exists for like days or weeks at a time. And then I'll go back and I'll see, oh shoot, all these people responded to me. And it's like, and so sometimes I'll respond. And if you see a response like it's 2 weeks later, that's why, because I forget because I'm autistic ADHD. I forget that because it's not in the main obvious page. I have to go into another tab to check. And YouTube does not always show me all the comments. That is really frustrating, because I will later come across a comment that I never saw before. And I'm like, YouTube did not send that one to me. So that's frustrating. Anyway, until the next video, guys, bye.